Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and I've been trying to reach you about your Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme's extended warranty. But do me a favor and hit that like button or you will get pink eye, and let's talk about our cardboard slaying experience with the Hogue Deka in Magnacut. So let's take a look at what we're holding. It's protocol. It'll bother you if I don't, and you know I spoil you. And first things first, and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We have got the black polymer scales. The pocket clip is reversible. We have got a thumb stud and an axis lock. Let's flick the stud. Sorry, internet's been kind of slow today. But 3.25 inches of Magnacut steel. Now that that's out of the way, couple of things to point out first before we get too deep into this. One, we do our electronic edge tester, which you'll see in a little bit here. But the way it works is it measures the number of grams of force needed to cut through a calibrated test clip with a wire on it. Just so people understand what's happening there. And of course, with this cardboard slayer testing, we are testing how many hours it spends cutting. We're looking for a rough idea how these steels stack up against each other. And like we stopped and counted the number of cuts one time a while back, and it was like 900 cuts in 30 minutes. Over this course of time, we can't keep count of each cut, but it's a ton of cuts. It's a lot. So now that that's out of the way, we went into our cardboard slayer session, and I had pretty high expectations. Everybody that I talked to when I talked about doing edge retention testing on the Magnacut here said, you know what, we'll see you in a week. The edge is not going to wear out. My condolences. Maybe we'll send someone to avenge your death. Okay, so expectations were set pretty high. And when we started on the tester, we had a 219 right around here on the belly, and on the heel, we got a 293 where I tested it. Now, bear in mind, you're cutting a wire, a very tiny area, so you do have to shift around a little bit to really get everything dialed in, but, you know, this is a really good idea where we were. It was in a good place. So we start cutting with it, and the cuts are clean. It cut like a bucket of hot damn, more or less, but that's where things started to get really shaky. At the first hour, right here at the belly, we hit a 500 where I tested. A 500. And at the heel, there was like a 274. And that is rapid edge degradation. All right, 500 is a lot of edge wear. So we stropped it at the 1 hour mark, and we brought it down to a 258 right here in the belly and a 234 at the heel. Back in pretty good shape, right? We cut for another 20 minutes, and the cuts started looking like absolute trash again. They were not good cuts. They were tearing and rolling the cardboard. It wasn't good. We checked the edge again, and right in the belly there was a 320, and there's a 396 at the heel, which normally isn't enough to be like a devastated edge that won't cut well. I think there was a very obtuse edge from the factory, and the very apex of the edge might have been burned a little bit, but we're spitballing guesses, having not seen them do this and seen what it looked like before they put the final edge on and polished it. I don't know what happened there, but that kind of sucked. So we stopped and sharpened it, and we ran into one of my primary complaints with this thing. I had checked a lot of online forums for how to take off the thumb stud because it looks like you need a specialized tool for it. Now, the thumb stud will accept a T8 driver like so. However, the thumb stud would not break loose. All right, it would not loosen up at all. I got a hair dryer and I heated this thing up until it was just about too hot to touch, and I let that heat soak in towards the thumb stud for a few minutes, and it would not break loose. We started damaging the tip of a T8, so I gave up. The online forums I looked at said you got to drill through the thumb stud to remove it, or you're not getting it off and then replacing it with a new thumb stud. I'm not about to do all that. So we taped up the thumb studs to try to mitigate some damage. Of course, I nicked the thumb stud a little bit. There's a silver spot right here that I did not want to see. However, we've done so much to this thing that it doesn't matter anymore. Now, what I was worried about was the thumb stud was going to stop the sharpening stone from reaching the heel of the knife, and you might be able to see right here. Come on, focus. Right there at the very tip of the heel, there's a spot we couldn't reach. It's still on factory edge. Not that big of a deal to me. Unavoidable, unfortunate, but not such a huge hairy deal. While we're talking, you know what? Let me do something just to make myself feel a little better. But, so we sharpened this thing up. And the Magnacut did respond well to the sharpening stones. And with black finishes like that, you can cover that up with magic marker and it'll look a good bit better. And where it's at, it's not going to wear off anytime soon. I've done that before, so not really too mad at that. But we sharpened it and we got a 17-degree per side edge with a fairly wide laid back bevel. You can see what the bevel's like. This is the kind of edge I like, and these are the kind of edges that on other steels have held up really well. D2 in particular likes this edge. It does very well with it, so that's what we went with because we haven't done Magnacut before. I haven't handled Magnacut before. This is our first data point on it. But after we sharpened it, we got a 132 right here in the belly and a 133 at the heel. So we started cutting again. And after an hour, we had a 286 at the belly and a 223 at the heel, where I tested them. I tested at the snag right here. You see this black magic marker? I kept stopping my cuts on paper at this point right here where it snagged and used that as my primary test on the belly, which seems to get us some pretty reliable results. But that was some pretty fast edge wear, faster than expected. We picked up the cutting again, and at the 2-hour mark, another hour of cutting, we hit a 409 right here, a 484 in here, and we hit a 146 at the heel. So I found a slightly sharper spot on the heel than I did the first time. Again, you're testing such a tiny area, it's kind of hard to get it exactly right every time. But that was some significant edge wear, like much more significant than I expected and had hoped for. That being said, at the end of the 2nd hour mark, the edge stabilized, and it would have been more surprising because we went from 409 to 457, which is some pretty negligible edge wear, bigger picture. Only losing about 40 points of edge wear, 40, 50 points of edge wear. It's not too bad. D2 will do the same thing. I would have been surprised by that, but D2 will do the same thing, and it was confusing at first, but D2, the edge will stabilize and stay there for a while before it starts letting go again. So, I guess that's what it did here. It stabilized because after another hour at the 3rd hour, we hit 457 here at the snag, a 114 at the heel. We found another sharper spot on the heel. And that shows you where your edge wear kind of shows up along the edge. The primary cutting surface takes the worst damage, and it's cool seeing that happen in real time. But, we pushed on for another hour. We hit the 4-hour mark, and that pushed it to a 501 right here at the snag. Not too shabby, a little bit of edge wear, 145 at the heel where I could test the heel. And so we pushed for another hour and we hit a 461 in one spot, and the worst spot we hit was 606. And that doesn't seem like the right number for that, but a 173 at the heel. Now, we went for another 30 minutes, so 5.5 hours of total cutting time. And we hit a 501, a 481, and a 450, just testing back and forth around here to try to find that 600 again. So that 600 may have been caused by some tape gunk on the blade or something like that. That does happen. So, I don't trust the 606, but I think we're in the 500 range. 500 is not completely devastated. Once you hit about 650 or so on most blades, that's devastated and the edge has failed. So there's going to have to be a part 2 to this. We're doing this in installments. One of the other worst things about this was the ergonomics. The ergonomics were terrible. So along here on the inside of the scales on this polymer, those edges weren't broken down at all. They were not chamfered. There's our $5 word. So they dug in bad right along here. And I hope the camera can pick up the size of this callus. But it starts here and stops over here. That's the area that was getting hit by that, and it hurt so much, and it started very early, and I had to keep going with it doing this. I go without gloves so we can test the ergonomics, and I can tell you what really happens with them. Now, one thing I did do, and this is a members-only video, but I had it apart, I fixed this with some sandpaper, and I also polished the washers to see if I can make it a little bit smoother. Polishing the washers and adding more lubricant did seem to make it a little bit smoother. I didn't go all the way with polishing, just 1200 grit. But if you want to see me going through that and the struggle to get this thing put back together, because I still struggle putting axis locks back together, check out the members only video. But, that was an interesting experience to say the least. And, I do like this thing quite a bit for daily carry. I really do. I had a great week with it when I carried it. And hopefully when we do our second installment of Cardboard Slayer soon here, the fact that I broke these edges down with sandpaper is going to make it a lot better to deal with and a lot less painful. There was flashing on here where the plastic came out of the molding a little bit. This is polymer. I'm not sure if it's FRN or not, But, you know, there was flashing where it leaked out of the mold just a little bit. It was sharp. You know, I'd put my hand in my pocket a little too aggressively and hit that flashing, and I'd have to stop and check and make sure I didn't poke myself with the tip with it partially opening. Never had a problem with that, but that scared me just a hair because I've been cut before, but that's when I was carrying weird. But you know, that was the overall experience with Cardboard Slayer. It was interesting, and maybe the Edge is going to hold on and keep fighting the good fight for a lot longer. I'm not sure, and, you know, one of the guys in the chat, he pointed out that, you know, one of the things that happens is when you buy a nice knife, you really want it to do well, and that might skew your opinion of it. Part of why we do this testing. You know, you can't skew an opinion of the results of a test like this. You know, it's not the most rigorous, like, lab coats scientific testing humanly possible, but it gives us a good idea what's happening. If it does poorly there, I can't hide it. I can't cover for it. If it doesn't do well, it doesn't do well. You know, that's why we do this. You know, I wanted the ergonomics to be good. They were not. I had to fix it. And for a knife that's pushing $140 for just the poverty spec version with the Magnacut, that's kind of a shame. That's really a shame. At the very least, you know, I will apologize about my earlier statements about the Deka being impossible to take apart. The the pivot is removable. It's got a captive pivot, which is nice, but you can remove the pivot and work on it just fine. I thought you needed a specialized tool, but this will also take a T8 driver, like so. So you can do that. I was wrong. I will admit that I was wrong. I got to tell you when I'm wrong, but, you know, let's take a look at where our edge is at. Because even at that low number, that 500 with a lot of wear on it, you can still get a reasonable cut on the paper. You know, if you go fast enough and you're careful with it, you can get a good cut. But you start seeing the snag right here where the magic marker is. And what I was doing was cutting till we hit that snag and marking it right here so that I could test right there. You know, and I did say I was going to show you the tester. If you haven't seen one of these before, you know, you guys kindly provided this with the super chat donations, the channel memberships and all that. So thank you. That stuff goes right back into the channel. I don't blow it on myself. We either get new stuff to check out. We got some stuff to give away coming up. But yeah, this is the edge tester, and it measures the number of grams of force it takes to cut through this wire on this calibrated test clip. So let's take a look at this thing, and this is the best version they have. All right, this is the best, highest resolution, most accurate version you can buy. So let's see where we're at. Right here at the snag, 497. So 497 grams of force to cut through that. You know, it's a little different from the 501, but it's right there in the butter zone for, you know, where we got our testing earlier. You know, so that's the amount of wear we've gotten. The edge is not devastated yet. We still got 150, 200 more points to go on it before it's totally shot. So we do that second round. Hopefully it lasts a while. I want it to do well. It's a nice knife. He was not wrong about wanting it to do well. So hopefully we'll see that. But I really hope I fix the ergos on this. I want the ergos to be good now. Not hard to fix, and don't be afraid to work on your own stuff. Like, you know, it's a learning experience for me every time, especially with these axis locks. I have a hard time getting them put back together. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's Magnacut. It's our first data point on Magnacut. I don't know what it's supposed to do yet, but we do have another Magnacut coming up to check it out against and get a second data point. So, you know, I love sharing with you what happened during Cardboard Slayer. That is what happened during round 1 of this Cardboard Slayer. I can't think of a lot else to add that I haven't already covered with it. So, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We've got regular videos. We got our live streams. There's plenty of activities. Comments. I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about how this thing is wearing, ergonomics, all that stuff. Or if you got one, let us know how yours is doing. And let us know if you got one of the weird heat treatments. The Deka apparently and Hogue are known for a little bit of wonky heat treatment on their Magnacut. Let us know your experience. But all that being said, y'all have a nice day.